Hi there, I'm Amy and I'm one of the journalists in Manx Radio's newsroom, and I'm talking about one of the island's long-standing police officers who says it was humbling to receive an award celebrating his contribution to the force. Detective Chief Inspector Mark Newey was recognised for the most outstanding performance in the fields of police service at the Chief Constable's annual award ceremony. DCI Newey has led a number of high-profile cases throughout his career, including the investigation into the death of Carolyn Buchan in March 2022. He's been reflecting on receiving the award.
Firstly, it was really humbling to be nominated by a colleague, and then it went to an awards panel made up of various ranks of people throughout the organisation. So it isn't just my mate has done it, or it's the senior command team or whatever. It's people of all ranks through the organisation, which is really nice. It makes it a bit more special. So I did my SIO, or Senior Investigating Officer training, at the end of 2009, 2010, and the award is in recognition of the work that I've done through many investigations over that time, not being paid to be on call for them, not being paid, family sacrifices that have been made, commitment to it, spinning multiple plates along with my day job as well. And I think that's basically what it amounts to over that sort of period of sort of 13 or so years of commitment to that role.
And you mentioned working on some fairly high-profile cases. What are some of the most memorable ones that stand out to you?
They're memorable in terms of different things, really. So dealt with a lot of fatal road traffic collisions and fatals in racing events, sporting events, motorsport events. And it was always about trying to find out what had happened, particularly at a collision, get some closure for the family, bringing offenders to justice, working closely with the collision investigators. And then there's the likes of Carolyn Buchan fatal year last March, where she was sadly killed by the taxi driver who left her there. Again, completely avoidable incident that was. And that was quite tough, sort of emotionally as well, with the family, and working on that with a small team, a ridiculous amount of hours in the first sort of week, fortnight to sort of further that inquiry. And a really positive result of identifying the offender, bringing him to justice and him pleading guilty to his offences. There's just so many over the years that, with no disrespect to any of my victims or the families, I can't remember everyone by the name and all that, because it's just the way that I guess I've processed it and dealt with it. So yes, I've got all of those images and some horrific scenes in my head, but at the minute they're all tucked away in a filing cabinet, and mentally I'm all right, if you know what I mean. It hasn't affected me in a negative way.
That in itself shows such a great strength of character, being able to separate what can at times, and particularly in the positions that you've held, be an incredibly challenging and harrowing job at times as well. So to be able to separate yourself from that and just do the job must be more challenging at times than others, I would assume.
Yeah, you're right. And how I've done it, or how I do it, I don't know, whether that's just part of my makeup, my psyche. I've worked with some fantastic people in the police. The mortuary staff, Dr. Longin, Hughes up at No Balls, have been brilliant. Dr. Linus, we use from Northern Ireland as a Home Office pathologist on a number of occasions as well. Really nice guy, very genuine, always willing to take a phone call. Chrissy Hunt's team at the AGs as well. It's been a real collective team effort, and right across my organisation and the people that we use as well.
So do you get much support in terms of dealing with events like that if you've had to respond to them?
Yeah, that is there through staff welfare and other agencies which we can reach out to. There's also a really good peer support network within the constabulary, people to say, if you want to come and have a chat. And again, sometimes it's good to talk the job through, just so that little bit of a critical friend that you're on the right lines, you're not missing anything, you're not being blinkered. But again, for me, talking through the collision investigations with the guys there, I've been able to sort of process everything, and I haven't had to go and speak to people about that, which I feel really fortunate, because sadly it does affect a lot of people, and it affects some really good people to the point whereby they leave the constabulary, which is a real shame for doing the job, and it does have long-lasting effects on them.
You mentioned really enjoying the process of solving a crime. Talk to me a little bit more about that, in terms of what is it that you find so satisfying about really being able to get into the nitty-gritty and retrace those steps?
I think just to summarise, it's like just trying to find out what has happened, because quite often the police are turning up after the incident has happened. It's very rarely that you've got police on scene, something happens and it ends up in a tragic circumstances, and you've got, if you like, eyewitnesses and CCTV, and it's just that kind of investigative mindset about what's happened, where can I go, what do I need to find out, where is that information going to be, setting those parameters, having a really skilled team around you and setting that direction and the focus of the investigation and what you want to find out. And again, I would always run it that sitting around the table, having had a debrief of the day's activities, everybody had a voice. You know, what had they heard, what had they seen, where did they think? And, you know, I'd listen to all of them. But ultimately, as the SIO, it's my accountabilities to what I do or don't do and documenting that. But I'd like to think that all of the people I've worked with have known that it wasn't just me barking out orders, if you like. It was very much a collaborative team event. You've
been an officer for a long time now. How do you think policing has changed since you first started?
Gosh, this could go on a long time, but I won't. It's changed an awful lot from the simple things of being a bobby on a public order team, that you used to get paid overtime to go and do football matches. You used to get paid overtime to go and do itinerants, encampments and all of that. That, because of the financial pressures, then changed. So you would then go and work a football match and you'd have a day off given to you in the week. So the financial pressures sort of came down on the forces in the UK and here as well. Then the actual crime has sort of changed around, rather than it being in person, if you like. It's made huge steps towards the identity theft, credit cards, you know, scams over the phones, call centres up in foreign countries, unfortunately phoning elderly people, tricking elderly people and all that, and then trying to unravel that is a whole web of trying to get to the bottom of who it is, where is it, and bring those to justice. Whereas many, many years ago, that type of crime didn't exist, and the police are having to adjust to that, have enough people to be able to investigate that type of crime effectively. But it's also knowing that that isn't going to be solved in a few days, money laundering and all that. It's just a really, really lengthy, protracted inquiry that takes a lot of time and a lot of officers to do, and a lot of cost to do when you look at specialist legal advice and one thing and another. And again, that's just coming more and more to the fore.
For the police force going forward then, what do you think are going to be some of the biggest challenges that it's going to have to deal with and adapt to?
I wish Mr. Foster all the best. I think he's got a really tough job to do. I think he's going to be really good for the organisation. There's a lot of work to do to pick it up. There's a lot of work to do to make partners accountable for what is their work and not the fact that it'll be left to the police, because we are 24/7, 365 days a year. It's going to be hard because you've got a number of officers who are looking to leave and have left because there are more financial rewards elsewhere with less risk, less shifts. The very few people seem to be joining now for a 30-plus year career, almost become a police officer. It's a line on the CV and they're moving on to other things. The way that the pay is all structured, it leaves the Chief Constable in a really difficult position to try to be able to pay staff more money to stay there. So it's got a tough time ahead of him. I wish him all the best.
And you yourself, you're coming to the end of your time with the police. What's next for you?
So yes, I finished my tenure as a police officer in the third week of January, and then I will stay on as the head of communications division in a civilian post, which will be really good. Looking forward to it.
Thank you for making it to the end of the Little Manx Radio newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider, so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you.